If you have an auditor or tax inspection knocking on your company's door anytime soon, do exactly one thing. Do not log into the old SAP GUI transactions. Instead, open this app right here called Auditor Direct Access External Tax Audit. Let's hit on this one. Here you can see the start screen. This is the auditor's direct access interface in SAP S/4HANA Fiori. And with a single click, we can just turn a high-stress, multi-week audit into a complete relaxed process. Let me show you exactly how this works. So first of all, over here, we need to select this icon to choose an audit structure. You can see there are many audit structures already available in my system. This should look similar in yours. We will just type in S4H and we will choose here the tax audit OP called period independent subsequent activities. Then we need to provide a check number. This is just a random number, which is used to identify our audit. And this will also create the audit structure so that we can later return to this structure. Please be aware we can also conduct multiple audits at the same time because each audit is linked to such a check number. Before we hit on execute over here, it could be that you did not yet load the audit structure. So this means that you must type in the audit structure and the check number and then click here first on the audit button to generate it. This is done in my system already, so I will show you this right now. If we select here new check number and then hit on execute, you can see there's an error message because the audit does not yet exist. So this is why I need to click on audit first. So the audit was created and then we can execute. Here you can now see the full audit structure. First of all, you can see the whole hierarchy is being displayed. However, we can also click here on collapse subtree. Of course, we must first choose a tree and then you can see now it's collapsed. And the same way I could also expand it. So what you can see over here is the whole audit structure, in this case for our financial accounting. There are also other audit structures in the system for other modules. Let's actually expand the view a bit because over here you can see the folders and subfolders. And then down here you can see the different activities, all with a status and a date column. However, the date column is not yet filled. We can now double click here on the lowest level so that on the right hand side, details are being displayed. So over here we can see the transaction code, who checks this activity, when it is checked, then the check status. So each and every activity could be unchecked, checked successfully, with warnings or even with errors, but this depends on the auditor of course. And then the waiting. So whether this activity is just for informational purposes up until a critical activity. So here for instance we could say checked successfully, critical, and then we can even write down a comment. And then here on the right hand side, we can save the entry. So then you can also see over here in the notes section, there is a log. So this is all quite theoretical. What we can do as an auditor is the following. We can even click here on the activity with a double click. And this will open the customizing activity so that we can take a look into it. Let me give you a more common example. Let's say here in the company code, we can double click. So the system will open the company code data so that the auditor can take a look at the company code specific data. So in this way, the auditor can go through and mark all the activities. As you can see, there are lots of activities here in the system. Despite that, you can see there are some more buttons over here. Application help. Here you can see lots of information for the audit. Then we have the audit logs. So here you can see for our audit structure, if we execute, all the logs that have been written to this audit structure. So in the end here we created them and then we have checked an application and marked it as successfully checked. Let's go back. Next off we have here the administration. So here we can say what kind of default selection we want. Do we want to reorganize the audit logs or do we want to configure the audit cockpit? This is also possible. So once we hit this one and then click here on execute and continue, we have the option to customize certain settings for our audit journal if necessary. For now, we leave it as is. Please be aware that you can also change the layout over here via change layout. And then you can also add here all the columns available. Hit on transfer. And then you can see there are many more columns being displayed. And quite importantly, the name of the certain application. So this is here the transaction code, or even in case of a native Fiori application, the Fiori ID. Please also be aware that there is a good help portal by SAP, which is this one over here. I will leave you the link in the description of the video. But for now you can see that if you want to access this application, you will need the external auditor role. This one over here assigned to your user or to the auditor. Please be aware that this documentation here is for S/4HANA Public Cloud. However, this application also works in an SAP S/4HANA on-premise or private cloud system. Then you can see here some restrictions regarding asset accounting, and also you can see the time restrictions. This we will take a look at in a second. Down here you can see some more hints how to perform an audit and can even view a video about it, but this you have seen in my video as well. So this is what is supported in both cloud and also on-premise in SAP. However, there's another one, which is this one over here, called generic audit filter. So with this, we can actually restrict the access of our auditor to the system, either by scope or also by time. And you can see this over here. So we can identify first of all the data to be restricted. Then we need to maintain some filters and assign the filters to a user, which is the auditor. Then we would activate the filter assignment and afterwards verify the auditor's access. But this is only possible as of now in SAP S/4HANA Public Cloud. So there are two applications called Manage Generic Audit Filter and Manage Generic Audit Filter Users. The former one is used here to create the filter, and the latter one is used to assign the filter to our user and thereby restricting the access. This can also be done on a time-dependent basis, so that for instance, we would say that only for the fiscal year 2026, we want the user, in this case the auditor, to have access. However, in 2027, we don't want the auditor to have access, or we don't want the auditor to have access to specific applications and just selected ones, or even a combination of both. So going back here to our Audit Cockpit, the key takeaway for you is that this Audit Cockpit is used for massive time savings with our auditors, because all of the applications are directly accessible and the auditors can mark here each and every step with a certain status and rating, and even leave comments. So we have a bulletproof compliance because the access meets strict legal auditing requirements, especially considering the time-dependent roles that we can provide for our auditors. And in the end, you give them their access and then you go straight back to your actual day job. So to wrap it up, if your company is already running SAP S/4HANA, make sure to leverage these tools for your next audit. Also, I'm interested, how do you handle audits right now? Are you still drowning in manual Excel exports, or are you already using those Fiori apps? Let me know in the comments below. If this quick look was helpful, drop a like and subscribe to the channel for more direct, no-nonsense practical tips. Also make sure to subscribe to my Patreon, where we have a community page and where I post lots of informative documents about SAP. The link is in the bio of my channel. Thanks a lot and see you next time.